All right, let's talk about one of the most epic figures ever imagined, the Great Red Dragon. I mean, this thing is the ultimate villain, right? But what if I told you that this monster isn't really a monster at all? Or at least, not in the way we think. What if its true identity has been hiding in plain sight for centuries, locked away in the original languages of the text? Well, today we're going to crack that code. Let's get into it. So this is the image that's burned into our collective imagination, right? It's straight out of the book of Revelation, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. I mean, it's just this incredible vision of pure cosmic power and, well, evil. This description is designed to be terrifying, and for thousands of years, this has been the picture of the final boss, the ultimate bad guy. But that's where things get really interesting. You have to ask, did this creature just appear out of nowhere in the final pages of the story? Or is this the grand finale reveal of a character we've actually known all along, a character who's been playing a role since page 1? To figure that out, we've got to put on our detective hats and go back to the source. Okay, so our first move is to look at the name itself, Red Dragon. Seems simple enough, doesn't it? But here's the thing. When you look at the original Greek, those 2 words mean something way more specific, and honestly way more revealing. This is our first major clue.
So let's break it down. Starting with red, the Greek word is puros. Now, this isn't red like a stop sign. It comes from the word pur, which is the Greek word for fire. Think pyrotechnics, right? So a much better way to think about it is fiery or flame-colored. The idea is that this being isn't just painted red, it's glowing from within. It's radiating heat and light, like a piece of burning metal.
All right, now for the word dragon. In Greek, it's drakon. And this is huge, so you got to get this. You need to completely erase the image of a dragon from, a fantasy show. Forget the 4 legs, the giant bat wings. That's a medieval European idea. Back then, a drakon was something else entirely. It was a giant serpent. Seriously, that's it. Think a colossal anaconda. It was, first and foremost, a snake. Okay, so let's put our 2 clues together. We have puros, fiery, and drakon, a giant serpent. So when the text says puros drakon, what it's really saying is a giant fiery serpent. Not just a red dragon, a giant fiery serpent. And that simple change, it's everything. It's the key that unlocks this entire mystery, because now we have a very specific description to search for.
And here is the million-dollar question. Now that we have this much more precise description, a giant, burning serpent, can we find that same creature anywhere else in the Bible, specifically in the much older Hebrew texts? And the answer is a resounding yes.
So now we jump back in time, into the Hebrew scriptures, looking for our fiery serpent. And it turns out we don't have to look far. There's an incredibly powerful, high-ranking spirit whose very name literally means to burn. This being is called a seraph. The plural is seraphim. And that word seraphim is a Hebrew verb that means to burn. That's it. So the seraphim are, quite literally, the burning ones. And what are they described as? You guessed it. They're serpentine beings associated with fire and glory who serve directly in God's presence. I mean, the connection is already jumping right off the page.
Okay, let's just lay it out side by side so you can see how perfect this is. In the Greek New Testament, we have puros drakon, a giant fiery serpent. In the Hebrew Old Testament, we have Seraph, a burning serpent. Come on, these aren't just similar ideas, they're identical. It's 2 different languages from 2 different eras pointing to the exact same creature.
So if the red dragon is a seraph, that changes everything. It means this isn't just a monster, it's a character with a backstory, a really long and honestly tragic one. He doesn't just burst onto the scene in the final act. No, he's been there since the beginning. And his appearance, his very form, has changed over time to reflect his story. So let's follow this timeline of his fall from grace. So here's the journey we're going to take. We'll start at the very beginning with the seraph as this glorious guardian. Then we'll see him in the garden as the Nakash, the cursed serpent. After that, we find him as a symbol in the wilderness, the Nehushtan. And it all culminates in the end times, where he's finally unmasked as the red dragon. It's quite a story.
All right, phase 1, the seraph in all its glory. Before any fall, before any curse, what was this being? Well, if you look at a passage like Isaiah chapter 6, you see this incredible creature, a 6-winged, serpentine guardian, literally glowing with divine energy, serving right there in God's throne room. The best way to picture it? Think of a majestic cobra, standing upright, but its entire body is made of pure white-hot fire.
And then, everything changes. The story moves to the Garden of Eden, and this glorious guardian makes a choice. He becomes the tempter. And in Genesis chapter 3, we read about the consequence, the curse. This magnificent, upright, fiery being is brought low. He's cursed to crawl on his belly in the dust. His entire form is altered. The glorious seraphim is reduced to a nachasha, the Hebrew word for a common snake. His fire is dimmed, his glory is gone.
Okay, fast forward hundreds of years. We're in the wilderness with the Israelites. And guess what attacks them? The text in Numbers 21 says they were bitten by fiery serpents. You know the Hebrew word used there? Seraphim. So what does God tell Moses to do? He says to make a bronze seraph and lift it up on a pole for everyone to see. Now think about it. What does polished bronze look like in the desert sun? It looks fiery, it glows. It was a perfect physical symbol of a burning one, now captured, judged, and rendered powerless.
And that brings us full circle, all the way to the end. In the book of Revelation, the curtain is finally pulled back completely. We're no longer looking at a physical snake in a garden or a metal statue on a pole. We are seeing this being for what it truly is in the spiritual realm. And just in case we missed it, the text spells it out for us. It says, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent, called the devil." It's connecting all the dots. The dragon is the ancient serpent. It's been the same character all along.
So let's just recap everything we've uncovered. We have the linguistic evidence, we have the historical timeline, and it all points to one single, unavoidable conclusion. Look at this. When you put it all on the table, the pattern is just crystal clear. You have the Hebrew seraphim, the burning ones. You have the Greek red dragon, which really means a flame-colored serpent. The visual is identical, a fiery serpent. Even the bronze serpent was made to look like a fiery serpent. It doesn't matter what language or what part of the story you're in, the identity holds true.
So the big takeaway here is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. The Great Red Dragon is not some new monster created for the final act. He is the original Seraph, that burning one from the very beginning. And in the end, we finally see him unmasked in his true spiritual form, no longer hidden behind a curse or a symbol.
And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on, a really profound idea. If the ultimate villain of the story isn't some monster born from pure evil, but was once a glorious, light-filled guardian who chose to fall, what does that tell us about the nature of evil itself? Maybe it means evil isn't its own thing, but just a corruption, a twisting of something that was created to be good. It's a heavy thought for sure. Thanks for digging into this with me.